I now give the floor to Mr. Agnew, establishing a programme for the environment and climate action, LIFE. Mr. Agnew, you have the floor, sir.
Well, personally, it's rather a big day for me drafting a parliamentary opinion. It is also my birthday, and I don't think I've ever been to a birthday party before where most of the people there don't want me to have a happy day. The draft opinion has generated a lot of hate mail. I refer this to the Reverend Philip Foster, who is also a Cambridge University physics graduate and is in regular contact with climate scientists. Any detailed questions will be sent down this route. The term denier frequently occurs. I must put on record that I am well aware of the climatic changes that have occurred in Europe over the last 2,000 years, and I'm certain more change will occur. I disagree that we are about to experience imminent Armageddon, but I do not deny that mankind in general, and farmers in particular, can positively improve the world's weather. It might surprise you to know that once upon a time I was as verdantly green as the Greens on this issue. The University of East Anglia, which is close to my home, has a climatology department. In the mid-1980s, a public conference was held there, launching the new concept of man-made global warming due to slightly increased CO2 levels in the atmosphere. This was a bit of a surprise because as recently as 1977, a book had been published about an impending ice age. I attended the event and listened to scientists assuring us in deadly serious tones that within 30 years the UK would have a Mediterranean-type climate and sea levels would rise by at least 1 metre, probably 5 and possibly 10. I swallowed all of this, and to take my own climate action, I started growing durum wheat, which thrives in a Mediterranean climate. I grew 11 crops over the next 15 years. Apart from one, they all failed, either due to late spring frosts, which ruined the yield, or rain pre-harvest, which spoiled the quality. I was motivated to keep going in the same way as an oil prospector who can't bear the idea of stopping drilling because he might just be inches from oil. The 30 years, of course, were up by 2017 with no drastic warming. 3 cold winters from 2010 changed the language from global warming to climate change. The first of those winters was so severe that I lost a third of my sugar beet crop due to having been assured to severe frost, but having been assured by climate experts only weeks before we couldn't possibly have a cold winter because of CO2 levels. During that time, some highly unprofessional emails between climate scientists at the University of East Anglia were leaked on a large scale, creating the strong impression that statistics were being manipulated to suit an agenda. At that point, science became a religion, with the twin Bibles of Al Gore's film, which succumbed to a legal challenge over its accuracy, and the pronouncements of the IPCC, whose chairman at the time was a railway engineer with substantial interests in the renewable energy sector. The religion insists that any severe climatic events, be they wet, dry, hot or cold, are caused by the presence of greenhouse gases, particularly CO2, with other factors apparently ignored. In the draft opinion, with the technical assistance of Philip Foster, we have outlined the main drivers of climate change. All of these are beyond the reach of mankind, even farmers. We have shown, with the benefit of satellite measurements, that the main concentrations of CO2 are found above the equatorial rainforests, where human activity is minimal. However, the Commission wished to use the LIFE budget to explore ways of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from farms, particularly CO2. This is actually pretty easy. Arable farmers either use their tractors less and leave land fallow, or they use GM crops and glyphosate, which minimise tractor operations. The real problem here is the undefined objective. What constitutes an improvement of the world's climate? What element of this improvement is the consequence of reduced CO2? Is the loss of food production a worthwhile price to pay for this? And overarching all of this is the fact that if CO2 levels fall from 400 parts per million to 280 parts per million, photosynthesis will suffer. The ruminant animals owned by livestock farmers emit methane. An enterprising company has jumped on the bandwagon here with a new product called a burp converter. They will now no doubt want LIFE budget to purchase this for farmers. A mobile phone-sized gadget is suspended over the cow's mouth from a ring through the cow's nose. The methane passes through the converter, is oxidised to CO2 and water vapour. There are two spoilers here. The first is that one greenhouse gas is being converted into two others, so we're back to square one. The second is that this conversion happens anyway as the exhaled methane steadily mixes with atmospheric oxygen. The gadget merely accelerates this conversion. The life budget might be used to fund breeding programs to select low-emitting ruminants. Even if a welfare-friendly method could be found to accurately measure methane emissions 24/7 from both ends of the animal, it is likely that the reason for a low figure is because the cow has a poor metabolism and should really be a candidate for culling and not to be bred from. Nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas emitted from farms. The main culprits are leguminous crops, which include clover in Ireland. Growing fewer of these will solve the problem. However, these are protein crops and the Commission is keen to see more protein crops grown. The alternative is to use life budget to fund a breeding programme to select plants that produce less nitrous oxide without an accompanying drop in growth rate. If the Commission is serious about this, they will need to allow the use of modern plant breeding techniques, GM and genome editing, which is exactly what the Green lobby don't want. Throughout the Commission proposal, I've deleted the word mitigate because it implies that farming activities change the climate. Adaptation is the key word. The climate will change, and investment is required to ensure that we can adapt to that change, as perhaps we were saying earlier, and not wasted in trying to prevent it. Next May, the farmers in your constituencies will not relish the message that they must reduce farming activities to improve the world's weather. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I must quote us as previous speakers. We've got enough figures together with the Greens on 21st of July in AGRI. We protested against this. Mr. Agnew, the rapporteur, was who we were protesting against. There was a Conservative majority, alas. If you can see now how correct we were. Thank you very much, Mr. Agnew. Today took us all back. I was astounded he was appointed Rapporteur.
Grazie Presidente.
Thanks, Chair. I absolutely do not see eye to eye with Mr. David Agnew and his climate change denial. I respect him as a parliamentarian, but I'm against what he's saying. That's why I will be tabling amendments to offset what he's cast aside.
Danke, Vorsitzender. Ja.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Agnew often makes a fool of himself. He got votes from his constituents to be in the Parliament. Maybe they will reconsider their vote. Mr. Agnew is in a very particular situation. He's making us all look like total idiots. He's making the Parliament look like cretins. I would once again indicate that Mr. Agnew was appointed Rapporteur with a majority not only covering the right wing and the very right wing in a coalition. There were also votes from the EPP and votes from the Liberals. That's why he was appointed Rapporteur. Was this only a matter of internal procedure? No. Right now, MÜLLER and Des, I would call upon you, in your opinions, to not follow this dubious and woolly science from Mr. Agnew. Please distance yourself from this. We may well not see eye to eye. We may well have a heated debate. There are areas of science where there are different construals of results, but there are also areas of science where it's crystal clear. So I would call upon you to distance yourself from this nonsense as depicted by Mr. Agnew.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chairman. In principle, I want to thank the Rapporteur and congratulate him on behalf of the group, but I don't want to do that today. I want to be very clear about this. I said this to the coordinators. He is discrediting himself, but he's also undermining the European Union and making it weaker, and the committee. And I think he's undermining you as chairman of the Agriculture Committee. How can we accept to listen to what is in this report. I think it's dangerous. I think we need to be cautious, and I think it's highly risky.
Well, Chair, I just want to come back to what Ulrike Müller said. You're pretending that every report is equally important. You might get a report done by a Eurosceptic. You and Albert Des have set this process in train. We entrusted an important report to somebody who's made us risible. You're saying he'll be negotiating in Environment Committee. So let's just acknowledge what he's written. Maybe he's in cahoots with Trump. Let's focus on the LIFE programme and consider whether we've not appointed the wrong rapporteur. Thanks, Chair. I didn't expect to take the floor. As far as I'm concerned, what was said by Mr. Agnew is a crime against the very planet. It's a pre-announced death.
I think, as many of you know, I keep a block of wood in my office, and I asked the block of wood this morning some questions, and I said to the block of wood, what is climate change? When it comes to climate change, I agree with the block of wood. I don't agree with UKIP.